James Farr here, live from Pasadena Media Studios. Get ready for more piercing and provocative. The Conversation Live starts now. And welcome to another episode of The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. Coming up today on The Conversation Live, we're going to have a critical and uncomfortable conversation about what's happening down at our U.S. southern borders, the crisis at the border, traumas caused to families, as well as what can we do to end these internment camps. My guest today is immigration attorney Angeline Chen, and we're going to have a critical and uncomfortable conversation. But first up, let's take a look at our hyperlocal coverage about the ICE raids. Go ahead and cue in that package, Jared.
There is fear and dread in some immigrant communities tonight over President Trump's threat of mass ICE raids this weekend.
KCAL 9's Tom Waite is live. He's in Maywood at a church that's going to be offering a safe haven to anyone who asks for it. Tom?
Yeah, that's right, Jeff and Susie. As you said, so much fear and anxiety here, according to immigrant advocates here in Maywood. And as you said, the church just behind me offering safe haven for those who fear deportation. This church in Maywood says many in the immigrant community are on edge. A nationwide ICE operation targeting thousands of undocumented migrant families will reportedly begin on Sunday.
They'll be starting fairly soon.
According to CBS News, ICE is reportedly targeting about 2,000 migrants who either have criminal histories or are here illegally and were ordered deported. Acting Border and Protections Commissioner Mark Morgan last month.
If you're a mother with a kid, is that mother going to be handcuffed? No, she doesn't need to be handcuffed. But if you're a criminal alien and you've been convicted of murder, sexual assault, and etc., are you going to be handcuffed? You bet you.
LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva says he opposes President Trump's planned raids, and he says there should be compassion for those in the undocumented community. Reporting live in Maywood, I'm Tom Waite, KCAL 9 News.
And welcome back. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, President threatening to start raids around the country in 10 specific cities. We just want to check in and let you know that here in Pasadena, officially, the Pasadena Police Department says that they are not cooperating with federal agents. Also, that Altadena Community Church has joined the nationwide movement of Liberty, Lights for Liberty, a visual which took place this last Friday, and All Saints Church, who we just hear is going to be receiving a racial justice award from the YWCA, offered sanctuary to immigrants that may need some help. So we praying for those folks who are in these hardships, and hopefully our country can get it together. But coming up, Angeline Chen is going to be in the seat. We're going to talk about the crisis at the border. She's an immigration attorney and a co-founder of Rise To Reunite, where they're a little bit more than soccer moms. They actually take trips down to the border, but I really want to understand first, is there really a crisis? So Jared, let's cue up this first video. Let's take a look at it and see if we can find out what the crisis is.
This is a crisis.
A crisis on our southern border.
This is a humanitarian crisis.
Humanitarian crisis at the border.
We have a national crisis.
Undeniable crisis.
In early May, more than 600 children were separated from their parents. Some were arrested trying to enter the country illegally.
But there are reports that even families crossing legally, presenting themselves for asylum, are being separated.
Now agents are stationed in the middle of bridges to stop asylum seekers from stepping across the international boundary. Immigrant advocates believe this is just the latest obstacle the White House has thrown up to discourage asylum seekers from coming.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. They're all met by the lawyers, and they say the following phrase: I am very afraid for my life. I am afraid for my life. Okay. And then I look at the guy. He looks like he just got out of the ring. He's the heavyweight champion of the world. He's afraid for it. It's a big, fat con job, folks. It's a big, fat con job.
Welcome back. Angeline Chen is in the seat today. Angeline, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule.
Thank you so much for having me, James.
Good. You spent some time at the border.
Yes.
And you've shared some things with me, so I really want to unpack your story and kind of understand what your experiences are, and learn a little bit more about the work that you do with immigration. Is it a crisis? I mean, because I kind of saw the president and his cabinet members or his spokespeople kind of being tongue-in-cheek with it. You know, it seemed a little sarcastic to me. But is it really a crisis? What are you seeing down there?
Well, there are two parts to the crisis. One is the administration is creating a crisis by detaining 13,000 kids. That's how many we think that are in Office of Refugee Resettlement right now. 13,000 kids detained in the U.S. You have thousands of people waiting in line to actually, go through the port of entry to seek asylum. That's something that the administration has created themselves. They're separating families. That's something they're creating. They're creating all this trauma. They are now, prohibiting migrants from seeking asylum who are going through Mexico. That's a crisis that he has created. He's also sending back people. So people who are crossing the port of entry will have to go back to Mexico and wait for their hearing for 4 to 5 months. According to the migrant protection policy, we call the migrant persecution policy. So that's something that the government has created. They don't have to detain these people. Most of these people have sponsors in the US who will take them. Most of these kids coming through have family here, or they came with families. You see the news about all these little kids that are, in the CBP detention. Mm-hmm. They came with family. And you don't have the 2-year-old did not walk across the river by themselves. So, and the other side of the crisis, yes, there are a lot more Central Americans coming through. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of people coming from Honduras. And that started out in 2009 with the coup, where the U.S. government was involved in. You have the U.S. government involved in that, and there was also a murder of an environmental rights activist in 2016, where we have proof that the U.S. military had trained those people. Mm-hmm. You have millions of dollars from the U.S. going to Honduras military, training them, and so. That's a crisis that we are a part of.
But when you look at because I understand that the president is sending people back, and that there's I read recently it's almost like it's a competition, but not a very not a serious competition. One administration over the next administration to the next administration increasingly deports more people. The difference with the Obama administration was that he allowed families to stay together and then issue them a court date. And then I understand that there was a higher return, that those people would actually come back to court and show up and stuff. So, I mean, when you get down there, you're there, you're in Tijuana, and what are some of the families that you're meeting? I mean, I know you talk about that 2-year-old, mm-hmm. and that 2-year-old did not walk across the border, walk through deserts. Mm-hmm. They had to come with someone. Mm-hmm. But if that someone may not be their parent, their mm-hmm. mom, their dad, it may be a tio, or mm-hmm. Aunt or uncle. What's happening to them? Now that they're kind of just in this environment, what's that environment like?
So when I go down there, I visit a refugee shelter, or we go down there, Rise To Reunite. And the people living there are families or just adults who are trying to seek asylum at the port of entry. So they're either waiting in line for months, or they have gone back because of the MPP program. And they're wonderful people. They're fleeing persecution. They're from all over. We've seen people also from Africa and Asia, Middle East. There's a lot of different people, but yes, a lot of Central Americans. And it could be that they had to flee their town because the drug cartels were going after and wanted to take their house. I've met a 18-year-old with a little baby because the leader of the town, kind of like a drug cartel person, said that if you don't come with me, I'm going to kill your baby. So
but isn't the president now saying that folks that are leaving their country of origin because of violence or gang violence or mm-hmm. cartel violence, that's no longer a justifiable means for asylum?
Yes, so you could still go through the process, at least give them a chance to go to court for that, and you can appeal. But yes, a lot of those are getting denied, absolutely.
And then you were also saying that, just because you make it to the border, you're not afforded an attorney. So is that why mothers that you organize with, you guys are not just soccer moms, you're actually taking your own time and volunteering. Is that the main reason why you go down there, is to help provide that legal aid?
So in the beginning, we were providing some legal aid. We had one trip that we called Immigration Attorney Moms at the Border. Rise To Reunite is bigger than that. So we have lots of volunteers, all different types of people. Now we focus a little more on, yes, we do bring volunteers there to do the legal help. We bring social media awareness. We volunteer with El Otro Lado, which is the nonprofit legal services organization in Los Angeles and in Tijuana, where they provide the legal services, know your rights to refugees there. Now, they do rely a lot on volunteers. They like attorneys to go for longer than a day. We tend to do more social media, fundraising. We visit a refugee shelter, provide some humanitarian aid, and then we come back. We like to mobilize people, and we send people to the right direction. So there's so much help that's needed. Okay,
let me check in. You're watching The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. Today, Angeline Chen is in the seat. She's an immigration attorney, and we're talking about some of the conditions down at the border. We're talking about this current administration, and I also want to talk about what's in the news this week, the squad. Jared, let's go in and cue up this package, because I want to get a little bit more insight on the conditions, but cue up this package about the squad, and we'll be back on the other side.
And at that point, we asked to enter one of the cells. We were allowed to speak to the women, and these are the women that we spoke to. It's their handwriting. And while we are being asked to speak only to officers, we are not getting the accounts of migrants, of their treatment, of what they are experiencing. And so when these women tell me that they were put into a cell and that their sink was not working, and we tested the sink ourselves and the sink was not working, and they were told to drink out of a toilet bowl, I believed them. I believed these women. I believed the canker sores that I saw in their mouths because they were only allowed to be fed unnutritious food. I believed them when they said they were sleeping on concrete floors for 2 months. I believed them. And what was worse about this, Mr. Chairman, was the fact that there were American flags hanging all over these facilities.
Mr. Chairman, I cannot unsee what I've seen. I cannot unfeel what I experienced. I refuse to.
Welcome back, Angelina. Some people may not want to believe AOC and what she's saying that she experienced, but you've been there. Is she exaggerating?
So I haven't been to actual detention facility in the U.S. side, but I have heard multiple accounts of, and tons of articles written about kids being drugged, because they're a little wild, a lot of psychedelic drugs, kids not being able to hug each other. Even in family detention, the mothers are separated from the kids in different rooms, and the mother can hear the baby crying in the other room. These are all fear and torture tactics. There's so many accounts.
What's the point of torturing and traumatizing? It almost seems like the administration is weaponizing immigration
I think
to the detriment of people.
Yes, the fear is for us, for everybody else, to don't even try crossing the border, because this is what's going to happen to you, to prevent people from coming. But unfortunately, they're fleeing their lives anyway, and this is a chance for them. So that is where the fear and torture.
You're an attorney, right? We've established that. You took an oath, swore to the Constitution, right? How un-American is it? Isn't this what America is about? Opening up its borders to those who, we understand that there's a process, right? That people should follow in terms of gaining, permanent residency and then, potentially citizenship. But don't we accept those who are fleeing tyranny?
Yes, we have U.S. immigration laws and international laws that asylum is a legal process. To cross the port of entry, seeking asylum is the process to do it. Even when people come in irregularly, let's say they don't want to wait in line and desperately cross the border in a different way, okay, they get charged, it's a misdemeanor. But to put people in this type of situation, people are saying it's an act of genocide. How can we do this to people? And again, it reminds us of the Japanese internment camps. It reminds us of so many things. History is repeating itself. It's awful. I cannot even explain.
I mean, some of the stories I'm hearing about people literally sheltering in place over this weekend, afraid to move and go about their normal daily lives. And not just those who may be here undocumented, but other family members who may be documented, but ICE comes in and sweeps everybody up. Right now, you're caught up in a system and having to prove you belong here. But again, these conditions that we constantly hear about in the trauma. Your mother, I mean, how did that affect you? What really was the catalyst for you to decide, you know what, I'm going to do something about it?
Yeah, well, I couldn't believe that this was happening. And to me, what if this happened to my child? I mean, I would rather have you cut off my arms and legs and you take him away from me, and I don't know. He's a 4-year-old right now. It's, a lot of, it was a very emotional, it's been an emotional experience, but I knew that I was the right person to do what I'm doing now.
It was that 2-year-old that really spoke to you.
So many, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of, even right now, it's like difficult for me to, not cry, right? Like just from watching what you have. So it's hard.
Okay, let me check in. You're watching The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. Today we're having a very critical and uncomfortable conversation. My guest today is Angeline Chen. She's an immigration attorney. She also is a co-founder with Rise To Reunite, an organization that actually goes down to the border cities, and they provide support. They do a lot of fundraising. They are raising social media awareness around this immigration issue that we're having, and what many are calling a concentration camp. Angela just said it a little bit earlier. History is repeating itself. So now that we know about these raids that were supposed to happen this past weekend, or kind of this threat that our president kind of leans into, then pulls back, then leans back into, just really disrupting people's lives. We kind of want to talk about a little bit more about people's rights and stuff, but first let's go ahead and look at this this last video, Jared, and then we'll catch back up with Angeline on the other side.
You're not hearing about any widespread raids here in LA, but take a look. We certainly have seen it happen before. And activists say the threat isn't over yet. There are reports that these raids may happen anytime during this week. Now, President Trump had threatened that they were going to be happening on Sunday. ICE agents reportedly targeting 2,000 people across the U.S. who are here illegally and have been ordered to leave but have not done so. Those arrests expected to take place in 10 major cities, including right here in Los Angeles. As you might imagine, the renewed threat of mass deportations has put the immigrant community on edge. Activists have been training immigrants on knowing their rights and what to do if they encounter ICE agents. You're not hearing about any widespread.
Welcome back, Angela. Thank you so much for taking the time again. We're getting up on the clock, so we're going to power through this. What's important for people to know in terms of knowing their rights? I know you're not a criminal defense attorney, but I think there's somewheres in your purview. So what should people know if they're contacted by ICE, if they show up their job, at home, they're pulled over?
Always remember that you have a right to remain silent. If they come to your door at home, you do not need to open it. But if they do bang down the door, do not resist. Take as much photos or record kind of discreetly if you can, but do not resist. If they have a warrant, make sure that a judge actually signed it and not just an officer. If they do arrest you and you're in a detention facility, do not sign anything. Contact a lawyer. Hopefully you could try to keep one on call, have that number. Give it to family members so the family members can call on your behalf, because it's actually difficult to take a phone, take calls from a detention facility. So, but most importantly, you have a right to remain silent. Don't run, okay? But you have to use a little bit of common sense as well. You don't want to run away. Don't fight them or anything like that. Yeah.
And what should your children do?
It's the same thing. I mean, hopefully they're not home alone, but they should definitely not open the door. It's basically the same thing. They should probably have a contact information that's in their backpacks. Kids who are, 15, 18 that are alone, it's the same thing.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned earlier, and we kind of get this myopic view of immigrants coming through our southern border as just Latino, Latinx, but there are Africans, there are people from the Caribbean, there are many people from many different nations and origins. So this isn't just a message of knowing your rights for our Latino brothers and sisters. This is for everybody that may be facing some immigration or status issues. What do you think can be done to end this, what many are calling concentration camps?
I mean, a lot of people are doing a lot, but I feel it's not enough. People are really afraid of speaking out. Even there are celebrities who just really have the opportunity to influence a lot of people, but they're afraid to. Their politicians are afraid to. I want to tell people, just do not be afraid, because this is bad. This is evil. This is horrible. And you have to stand up for what's right. Go to events. Go to local events. If you can donate. Or I always try to train people that anybody can be a fundraiser. If you're middle class and above, you could do a little fundraising. You can ask 10 friends to donate $10. That's fundraising. Right. You can post on social media. El Otro Lado is actually having a fundraiser on Friday, a huge concert for 1,000 people. So they could look that up. Come, show up to the protests. I was at the Lights for Liberty protest on Friday. There are 4,000 people in downtown LA. There should have been 50,000. There should have been 1 million. People don't understand, just small wins, small steps. Just do a little bit. Contact your congressperson. Do what feels comfortable to you in your comfort zone. If you are of higher net worth, let's do a fundraiser. Call me. Do you want to know what's happening? Volunteer. There are many ways to volunteer. El Otro Lado has their own website, a volunteer intake sheet, intake form for all kinds of people. And you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be an interpreter. They want observers in the courtrooms too. So through Rise to Reunite, you guys are on social media. People can find you there and follow your work, and they can also find a way to support you there. We'll be sure to get that graphic up. And again, Angeline, I am just so thankful that you took some time to sit down with us today. And it never seems like enough time when we get into some of these conversations, but we definitely wanted to look at things that are happening at our southern borders, and I really appreciate your lens, your experience, and the work. I know you've been a guest on CNN many times over just last month, I believe I saw you last, and you can now add the conversation live to your resume as well. All right, folks, my guest today was Angeline Chen. She is a immigration attorney and also the co-founder of Rise to Reunite. We're back for a new season. We have 19 more shows to go. Thank you for checking in. Make sure you continue to like and share our content. As you know, I'm James Farr.
I am your host, and we'll be introducing some new segments this season. We're going to try out some new different things, and really appreciate your support. And today's episode, I should say, actually makes the 177th episode. So again, thank you for your continued support, and continue to like and share. Until we have another opportunity to speak with you, as always, agape.
The Conversation Live is brought to you by